Hi, we're going to talk about emotional regulation this week. And emotional regulation can be a significant challenge for adults with ADHD. So I'm going to share a system that can be really helpful, really for anyone, but I find that this works really well for ADHD folks. And it's the 3N steps. And it's the first one is notice it. So I'll go through them. It's notice it, name it, and then now what? And so the first one is notice it. And the first step in noticing it, it means becoming aware of your emotional state as it arises. And as we know, emotions can sometimes be intense and sudden, and it makes it important to develop mindfulness around these feelings. And so how do we notice it? Pause and observe. When you are starting to feel overwhelmed, pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and observe what you're feeling. Number 2, physical cues. Pay attention to your body. Are you clenching your fists? Is your heart racing? Do you feel like tension around your head? These physical signs can be indicators of your emotional state. And so really tuning into your body and recognizing where certain emotions land in your body is going to be an important step. But, some people get pit of the stomach. Some people get gastrointestinal issues if they're really anxious. So paying attention to where your body, if you have sensations, sometimes it's shoulders or neck, just really paying attention to those sensations in your body. And then also mindfulness practice and incorporating mindfulness practice such as meditation or deep breathing. Incorporating those into your daily routine what that does is it paves the way for you to notice your emotions as they come. It just helps you to be a little more connected to your body and a little bit more aware. And so if emotions pop up, you can determine kind of where they're landing in your body, and then you can start to dig in and do more work around, okay, when my shoulders are tight, I'm frustrated with someone at work. Or when I clench my jaw, that means I'm angry with my partner about something. So really recognizing where it lands in your body. And then once you've noticed your emotion, the next step is to name it. And this can be a really tough thing to do because sometimes we just don't have the words for what we're feeling. But when we can name it, it reduces its intensity and it gives you a little bit of a sense of control. And how that happens is you have a pathway of understanding of, I've been angry before and I've managed that. And I have some tools to manage my anger. I've worked on that. And so when you name it, we can then put things into categories that are less scary and more familiar for us. So how do we name our emotions? First of all, be specific. There are no bad or good emotions. They just are emotions. Of course, some feel much better than others. There's some that are more pleasant than others, but they're not bad or good. They just are. And try to dig into the nuances in the words of like happy or sad. Like there's so many more emotions in that. And one of the ways that you can do is to use an emotion wheel. And this can help you to pinpoint exactly what you're feeling by providing a range of emotional terms. So for example, if you are happy, it could be content, it could be joyful, it could be pleased. And so there's so many different words for emotions. And I think it's important that we start to go beyond the basics, happy, sad, mad, glad. Really looking at like, what else am I feeling? Surprised? Am I feeling excitedly nervous? Am I feeling overwhelmed, tired, exhausted? There's so many different words that we can use, and I think it's important that you kind of expand your language around emotions. And then next, reflecting on triggers. So when you name it, reflect on like, what might have triggered this emotion? Was it a particular event, a thought, or a physical sensation? Again, if you're connecting within your body of like, ooh, I'm feeling something, then you can connect and say, okay, now I'm noticing that anger feels like ... for me. So it's kind of continuing to this connecting where the emotions land in our body and how we name them. And then triggers, of course, too, if there's certain situations or things that happen that trigger specific emotions for you, can you manage that? Can you go into ways of reducing the trigger? So if you know that you get triggered by a coworker who always shows up at your desk and kind of sits and bothers you at a specific time, can you work your schedule around so that you're not there when that coworker generally passes through your part of the office? So it's noticing the triggers and then doing what you can. Sometimes there's nothing we can do with triggers, but sometimes we have some power to make some changes. So looking at what the trigger is and can I make some changes around it, or do I need to just manage the emotions? And then the last one is now what? And now what is deciding how to respond to the emotion in a healthy and constructive way. And so if you've noticed a trigger, we just sort of did a now what right there with, okay, I have a coworker who's bothering me. Now what? I'm going to make sure that I'm not there when they come around at that time. And so healthy coping strategies look like going for a walk, journaling, talking to a friend, engaging in a hobby, all of those good things, right? All those things that kind of fill our buckets. And so that's one way. Problem solving. So if your emotion is tied to a specific problem, let's brainstorm some solutions. Break down the problem into manageable steps and take action. Sometimes there's really nothing we can do. And so self-compassion. Acknowledge that it's okay to feel the emotions and that you're taking steps to manage them and being kind with yourself during this process. And then, of course, reaching out to professionals or to your community to help you with understanding, hey, I am feeling an intense emotion and I'm not quite sure how I should manage it. And when we reach out to community, what that does is it reminds us that we're not alone, number one. And number two, it gives us feedback that maybe other people have solved problems in ways that are creative and we can adopt those strategies. And so some ways that you can integrate this 3N system into your daily life. I really like daily check-ins, and this is just setting aside time each day for a quick emotional check-in. And if you practice this with the range of emotions that we have throughout the day, not just the more pleasant or more like difficult emotions, but if you practice it with also the more pleasant emotions, you get skilled at just noticing emotions in general. And so a lot of times I think we just push through the emotions that are more pleasant because there's not a lot of ooh. We push through those more pleasant emotions because it's comfortable to feel them. And so if you are struggling with trying to identify some of the unpleasant ones, start with the more pleasant ones. And you can notice, name, and plan your next steps for pleasant or unpleasant emotions. And then again, routine practice. So making this 3N system part of your routine. It's a part of your structure that you use. Another one is use visual reminders. And so putting it on your phone of like, hey, a 3N, or putting it in your kind of coping skill toolbox. So if you're struggling and you're like, oh gosh, I'm feeling emotionally overwhelmed and I don't really know what to do. If you just write notice it, name it, now what? If you just write that down somewhere on your phone, that may then trigger you to be like, oh yeah, now I know what to do. So I want you to give this a shot this week, and I want you to try it on pleasant and some not so pleasant emotions, and let me know what you found, and if it's been hard, where it's been hard and why. If it's been easy, awesome, share that with me. And then let me know what kind of emotions that you've come up with. I'm also going to attach an emotion wheel into this class. And so that'll help you too. It's a great tool to use to expand your vocabulary regarding emotions.